What's up everybody, Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video. And in this video, we're going to be breaking down how to dominate patch 1.14 with a combination of different tips and tricks, what character you should play, what weapons you should be using, and what you should be doing depending on the rank you're in. We got it all in this video, so make sure you watch it to the end so you don't miss out on a single bit of the 1.14 survival guide. But go to the Game Leap website right now in the description down below for in-depth advanced VODs, step-by-step tips and tricks, and much more. We got tons of advanced content on the Game Leap website, so do yourself a favor, go check it out right now. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, the first thing that you have to have answered if you want to dominate patch 1.14 is what agent should you play. There's a lot of different agents in the game, and sometimes it's really difficult to find the perfect one. So let's break down exactly what you should be thinking about when you're trying to find either your new main or just expand your agent pool so that you can flex better in the future. Now, for the controller role, there's only one character you need to learn, and that's Omen. And honestly, everyone should learn a little bit of Omen. Now, I don't really suggest people to just fill to Omen on a whim, especially if you don't know him that well. He is not that easy of a character to play, and if you're gonna fill to Omen just because you think you need him, but you don't know how to play him, it doesn't really matter that you're filling if you can't do the job, right? Now, that being said, not having a controller makes games really hard, and Omen is just the best of the best right now in regards to that. Actually, he's just the best character in the game right now. So if you're looking for an amazing character to learn to flex to, or you want to play a role that relies less on mechanical skill and more about understanding of the game, then Omen is the perfect character for you. Now, next up in the duelist category, there are two characters that are just going to be the end-all be-all for all your duelist needs if you want to have the most individual solo impact, and that's either Jett or Reyna. Now, specifically, if you favor the op and you want to abuse that because it's very abusable in pretty much every ranked game, when you're not going up against hyper-coordinated teams like they do in pro play, the operator just becomes absolutely oppressive, especially in the hands of Jett, so you could abuse that on that character, on top of having a really powerful proactive ult in knives that helps your economy, and just being able to utilize a lot of the other burst close range weapons like shotguns and the stinger to its maximum effectiveness. And then if you're more of a rifler and you want to be the rifler solo carry, Reyna is definitely the best character for you. She doesn't op very well, but she rifles better than anyone, and her individual impact is unmatched, especially if you are someone that's very confident in your personal abilities. Now, the next question is probably the most difficult one, the initiator question. If you want to play an initiator, there's Sova, Breach, and Skye, and honestly, all of these have their own pros and cons. Now, that being said, as far as power level is concerned, Breach and Skye come with tons of power level that can make a difference, but the big problem with these two characters is a lot of the plays that they want to make rely on coordination. So if you're not playing in at least a duo queue, maybe shy away from Breach and Skye and play something like Sova instead, because Sova's one of the best solo carry agents in the entire game, regardless of role, and he's amazing even if you do not have an ally to combo with you. You could still get a lot of value out of Sova. Now, last up, we gotta talk about the Sentinel role, and honestly, the best Sentinel is undoubtedly Cypher right now. That could still get a fair amount of value, and he's still really good. Not absolutely oppressive, but the true way that you're gonna be able to carry on Cypher is by making these lurks or flanks at appropriate times to get value without getting punished for it. You gotta kind of try to incorporate these into your gameplay, look for opportunities to make proactive plays, but also just remains this consistent pressure that just makes it a lot harder for enemies to make aggressive plays. Speaking of aggressive plays, the other two Sentinels are actually pretty equipped to deal with the double or triple duelist meta. First off, Killjoy has the best way to execute a retake strategy where when enemies execute onto a site with a lot of utility, like flashes and things like that, you just give it up and then you retake it with Killjoy's ultimate. Very powerful to secure tons and tons of free rounds. And then honestly, Sage, and you might think I'm joking, but not just because of her buffs, even before she was seeing a lot of play in EU, specifically made to address this rush triple duelist strategy. And a lot of times what you're going to be seeing in ranked is players will just wait a lot less time in default and then will just execute on it to a point with tons of flashes, tons of utility. But Sage can really punish that, slow that down, and give your allies enough time to, you know, cut people off, get some picks and things like that. Does require a lot of discipline on the Sage's part, but I actually do think she's pretty viable in the current meta. Now, moving on to tip number 2 to dominate patch 1.14, we got to talk about economy tips. The first thing that you got to do is have an economy plan for your character. You see it often where a player like Wardell only buys very little in that first pistol round because he's trying to ramp to a third round op as quickly as possible, and he knows that even if he loses the rounds, he's still going to be able to get that operator, and also he's also going to be able to tip typically buy either abilities or light armor with it, and that's something that he really values because he knows that he's going to get value on the operator. That's just one example of having a plan for your economy down the line and doing things ahead of time that will really play into that. Another thing that you should be consistently doing that I don't see enough is when your team has bought weapons and the enemy hasn't, when one ally gets picked off, you should put in tons of resources and even time into guarding weapon down. This is really important because you never want an ally to be able to upgrade on weapons. So if you can protect a weapon and guard it, even throwing one of your weapons away to pick up your ally's weapon just so that the enemy can't secure a better weapon, that could be a way that you don't turn one picked person into a cascade where they get to keep killing and getting better weapons, killing and getting better weapons. Now, everyone always knows that games are always winnable, right? You've been down by like 5 rounds, 10 rounds, and you still have come back. I know it's happened to you before it's happened to anybody, but here's the way that you ensure that that doesn't happen, and that's force buying ruts. You see this a lot where instead of saving one round, a team will try to do a mix-up and force buy, which is fine, but they'll lose again, and then they'll force buy again, and then they'll lose again, and they'll force buy again. You see the problem? It's just a cascade that keeps happening and happening and happening, and unless someone just puts their foot down and says, we should save this round, let's just save, reset, and we'll win the next 4 rounds after that. And then the last thing about economy that you need to think about is think about the ramifications of multiple rounds in advance. Think about the fact that after your first loss, you get 21, then 24, then 29. Imagine the best and worst possible scenario in every single round, and think about what that means for your economy. This is gonna better prepare you just for anything that can happen, and you're just gonna have better economy overall and never get caught into a scenario where you're constantly force buying or never having the good weapons that you practice all the time, the ARs, the operators, because you're not incorporating any foresight into your economic buys. Then we go to the third thing that's gonna help you dominate in patch 1.14. What are the weapons that are dominant? Well, the Stinger is seeing a ton of pro play, and it's one of those weapons that you should just be abusing a lot. It's one of the best weapons to force buy into because it's gonna be better than all the things like pistols and things like that, and it's an amazing weapon at actually challenging up against ARs as long as you maintain a close range. So for those reasons, at only 1,000 credits, the Stinger is honestly probably a little overpowered, so abuse it while you can. On top of that, classic pistol with armor, light armor is being used a lot more than the ghost pistol, and typically even duelists are rocking it because the same time to kill, if not better, because you can get these really powerful right clicks. You got less money, and of course you can move while you right click. There's a lot to love about the classic. It's really just an overpowered weapon in general. We already talked about how the operator is still overpowered and ranked, and that remains true. People might flame you in the comments. They say, oh, nice op, or oh yeah, so cheesy, or whatever the case may be. Who cares when you're farming them over and over again? It's not your job to tailor towards whatever makes them salty. It's their job to shut you down even though you're opping, and if they can't do it, they don't deserve the rank, they don't deserve the win, and you do. That's just as simple as it is. Now, just because the Vandal sees a lot less play than the Phantom in pro play doesn't mean the Vandal isn't very powerful in rank. It's one of those weapons that thrives if you're taking a lot of 1v1s and taking 1v1 duels, which happens a lot in ranked. So if you're confident in your Vandal use, don't feel ashamed using the Vandal every single round as your preferred weapon of choice. Now, as another takeaway as far as weapons, the Spectre is just seeing less and less pick rate. The problem with the Spectre is, honestly, it's just actually worse time to kill than the Stinger when you're really close. That's the first problem. And the second problem is it absolutely sucks taking duels up against ARs. So if it can't win the close range duel up against ARs like a Stinger can, and it can't win the 1v1 against the Stinger up close, why are you picking the Spectre? I don't even know. Now, the last thing about weapons as far as LMGs are concerned is they're just a lot worse than they used to be. They used to be something that was legitimized even by someone like Sinatra in pro play, but the stick is kind of solved at this point. Especially because people are actually executing a lot quicker with multiple duelists. You don't really have enough time to get a substantial amount of time out of LMGs, and a lot of players are a lot better at playing around them, so definitely keep that in mind. It can get value, but it's not one of those really dominant weapons like it used to be in the past. Now let's move on to rank tips, where I give some general rank tips depending on your general rank bracket: low rank, mid rank, and high rank. So first off, low ranks, this is going to be like anything gold and below. This is the general thing that you need to work on to set yourself up for success in patch 1.14. The first and most important thing is don't get too discouraged from smurfs. I know when you get destroyed by a smurf, it can be the most aggravating thing in the world, but you got to remember that it's about the long haul. It's It's about the long term, and it's about improvement. It's not about getting the win in the moment. Unfortunately, yes, some percentage of every single one of your games is going to have a Smurf, but sometimes you're also going to get a Smurf on your team, and a lot of times you're not going to get Smurfs at all. What you need to understand is the theory of 40-40-20. And what this is there's 40% of the games on average that no matter what you do, you're going to win them. This is why you have really good teamwork, really good synergy, or you just have an amazing person on your team. Then there's another 40% of the games where you're going to lose them no matter what you do. You have Smurfs on the other team, you have really throwers on your team, or things are just not going right. And then there's the 20%, and this is the important window. That 20% is games that your individual mistakes and actions are the decider. Now you tell me, if you win that 20% of games that you have a actual power to control, and you also win that 40% of games that you're always gonna win, that's a 60% win rate, and as a result, you will climb. Now I know it can be incredibly frustrating to lose to Smurfs, but it's important to not get discouraged so bad by that 40% of games that you were gonna lose regardless, and let it affect that 20% of games that you 100% have a direct impact on. Next up, please play in peak hours if you want to avoid Smurfs. Smurfs are far more likely to be playing at obscure hours, 5 o'clock in the morning, just as a general tip. And then, of course, you want to be working on your fundamentals and your mechanics every single day while in low rank, because fixing a little fundamentals here and there and your mechanical skill here and there will have a huge ROI, or return on your investment of time. Specifically comparing effort to ranked gained, that's going to be the easiest amount of effort to gain in rank that you can find. And next up, we got to talk about the mid ranks, which is basically plat and low diamond. Well, the only way to get past this area is just to play a lot and get consistency, because the biggest problem with players in this rank is that they are just not consistent. They have some games that they perform extremely well, and then they have some games that they just do fuck all. This is a beast that you have to tame, and the only way to do it is by consistently playing. Try to maintain mental stability, don't let tilt get to you too harshly, and also make sure you master your role. Now last up for the higher ranks, effective communication is extremely important, and just because you can click heads doesn't mean that you're not an introvert and you can't talk to people. That's something that you really need to work on to have effective comms. Also, do consistent self-VOD reviews every single week where you record your own footage and then you replay it and you look at your own gameplay. You might not think that you made a lot of mistakes, but I promise you, watching your own footage back, you'll be like, what the heck? Why did I do that? And it will just reveal a lot of things to you that all it took was for you to look back at your own plays and just realize how dumb they were in the first place. And then, of course, just consistent, more effort, trying to make sure that you don't spend substantial time off from the game so you don't build up that rust and then actually decay some of your skills. Now for the last tip that I want to talk about in this entire video is map mastery, specifically talking about Icebox. Icebox is a map that is very, very difficult to master. Everyone has known that, everyone has felt that, and with it getting a whole bunch of changes recently, it's like relearning the map again. There's a lot of things that you need to learn, a lot of rollouts you need to learn on Sova, and just general strategies that you need to go and hone. Just like before, I highly suggest just going into a custom game and walking around the map, and of course we're going to be getting that new snowball mode that is going to be only on Icebox. That is just another fun mode that we can play to better help us learn the entirety of the map and just get more used to how the map feels to run around on. And then of course, to tie this all together, just watching pro players. A lot of people don't do that, but I would highly suggest your favorite pro player or top pro, go find the people that play your characters and go watch them on stream. There are so many to choose from, and you can always learn different angles to hold, different insights, or different ways that they engage in duels. There's so much to learn, including tons and tons on the Game Leap website, where we have in-depth advanced VODs showing you step-by-step from a top 100 Radiant player, advanced tips and tricks. I mean, we got it on the Game Leap website. So do yourself a favor, go check it out right now. But thank you so much for coming by. I hope you enjoyed the video. That's all I got for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and of course, until next time.